Getting this comment, I'm working on a follow-up video now to address the criticisms I've been hearing. I missed the mark on a few things that need corrections. I watched when Vaush reacted live to the video and agreed with a lot of his pushbacks. So when it went on the stream, I didn't have much to say. The issue is that it was a pushback to the entire video. If Noah has any spine, the follow-up video that he claimed he's going to make will include a full retraction of essentially everything. I am not joking when I say to all of you with full sincerity that this is quite possibly the worst takedown I've seen. Now, Noah Samsen has been kind with me in DMs, but sometimes kindness is just a way of placating people while you stab them in the back. And I have been quite a bit more charitable to Noah Samsen than he has been to me. So the kindness has run its course now. The kindness now is deleting the video. People have been making an unfortunate habit of critiquing debate content as a medium for the exchange of information, particularly in the online left. Now, I welcome all criticism, especially when it's correct, which is, I suppose, the difficult part of finding criticism, right? It has to be good criticism. I take lots of criticism in stride. It's my job to, but I think it would be good if we could reflect on some problems that I've noticed in the video essay content production space. I think that would be good. And as someone who watches lots of video essays, and somebody who made a few of them back before he got a hold of the live streaming thing, I think I have the necessary skill set to critique and arrive at better outcomes. Huh? I think we're in for a blast here, okay? So, in order to produce good criticisms, of course, you need some higher standard to compare things to. A theoretical one, if you're an idealist, maybe, but as a materialist, I'm going to be deferring to the content of 3 video essayists whose content I like, and with the exception of one of them who I like sort of generally, okay? And that would be Contrapoints, H-Bomber Guy, and Shaun. The reason I want to focus on the 3 of them is because I feel like they're a perfect trifecta split in terms of the content they produce between abstract theoretical stuff, media analysis, and direct political breakdowns and commentary. And I think those are the 3 big wings of left-leaning video essays. So I think that it's well represented in those groups. Now, some people are going to say the only reasons I'm making unfavorable comparisons to other people with regards to these video essayists is that I like them, to which my natural answer is, no, I don't like Shaun at all. I think that he's actually a miserable, annoying wretch. But his videos are good. So, with accusations of personal bias and favoritism left to the side, now we're focusing purely on the quality of the content, let me talk to you guys about a little somebody known as Natalie Wynn, so named because she can't stop winning, aka Contrapoints. Let me bust out the channel here. There are plenty of other good video essayists who I could use as positive examples here. I'm only focusing on these 3 because these are the producers of content who I am most familiar with. There are tons of other people we could go into, all right? So let's take a look at this channel, Contrapoints. Oh my goodness, it is revealed through the YouTube play history that I've watched every single one of them. What it can't show you is that I've watched every single one of them multiple times. Great videos. I've talked at length about why I like Contrapoints several times, and I'm happy to do so again. A lot of it is because I think her script writing is incredibly tight. She doesn't waste much time, even though she has comedic bits, often quite funny ones, I think. The videos do an excellent job at compressing really complicated subjects into relatively short lengths of time. Now, some of her videos are quite long, but in the span of, for example, the video on Envy or on J.K. Rowling, she doesn't just respond to a bad take from J.K. Rowling. It's a goddamn adventure. I mean, you cut across so many ideas. It's not just the thing that you're responding to or the concept you're talking about. It's a bunch of adjacent concepts. You don't just tear it apart, you tear apart all of its supporting premises. The difference between a really good takedown and a regular takedown is that a regular takedown just makes it look bad. A really good takedown is like a controlled demolition. A flash of explosions, and then a building crumbles into dust with no damage done to any of the adjacent innocent buildings. It is a comprehensive, thorough deconstruction that really just leaves like no room. So yeah, it's like you're walking over rubble at the end of it. Phenomenal stuff. Now, most of the videos that Contrapoints does are videos on concepts, which is kind of the trend these days. See, it used to be that most of the video essays I saw were responses to other things. Now, Contra's deleted some of her older videos, so we don't have a full throughput, but you can see even here in videos like Jordan Peterson, Tiffany Tumbles, The West, that she's, if not directly responding to people, at the very least, it's the ideas presented by others that she's focusing on. An easier example is with Shaun. If you take a look at Shaun's older videos, a lot of them look kind of like mine. A response to Thoughty 2, a response to Lauren Southern, you know. This one is Black Panther Alt-Right, is mostly about Paul Joseph Watson and Sargon, I believe. A response to Roaming Millennial, you know. The CinemaSins ones, you know, Stefan Molyneux again, Sargon, Paul Joseph Watson, Black Pigeon Peak, so on and so on and so on. In essence, they're response videos, though, again, really, really good ones. His older videos were mostly about, you know, debunking a bad take, but as time's gone on, that's come to be a little bit more out of fashion, I think, because a lot of Shaun's newer videos are about either concepts or you know, a sort of broader political messaging. With the exception of Jimmy Dore's Anti-Vaccine Lies, a great video, and the BBC stuff is kind of in a category of its own, you have videos like PragerU and The Law, which is a direct response. You also have videos like the 1776 Report, Dropping the Bomb, and of course the best video he's ever put out, The Bell Curve. Even videos that talk about the takes made by other groups, like the death penalty featuring PragerU, are largely about the concept itself and only really use the initial media as a jumping off point for discourse. So they're not really response videos so much as they are videos on the subject that use other people's incorrect positions as a framing device. And we could look at H-Bomb's videos if you like. They're mostly media responses, and also H-Bomb's videos get crazy views. I'm pretty sure his one on Sherlock is at like 8 or 9 million views, which, Christ, media analysis is a big market, you know? And I think that, credit where credit's due, he does a remarkable job of fitting political analysis in to media analysis in ways that don't come across as particularly preachy. Though again, if you look at H-Bomb's older content, there is a lot of direct political responses. I think at one point he was given credit in Contrapoints' video on cringe that H-Bomb's video is making fun of that, oh, what was it? It was that red pill guy with the skull and the whiskey he would never actually drink, you know what I mean? Where he's like, I think we should all agree women are scary. Yeah, Davis Arini, right. H-Bomb made fun of him, of course, and right. Wonderful stuff. Okay. So I'm establishing all of this. Why am I establishing all of this? Well, I have this fear that, I'll just put it bluntly, there are modern video essayists who have cropped up in the past few years who are aping the aesthetic of these videos without understanding what makes them actually good. They're creating video essays that are overly long, that are shallow, that are heavily weighted or biased, that have very poor research built into them, and which are, honest to God, in terms of the density and quality of their information, not that different from what you're capable of doing live with just a casual Google search of stats as you watch through a video you don't like, but being presented through the veneer of a video essay, which means that, unfortunately, they're capable of delivering this information more compellingly, I think, than you can in a live format. You know, the thing that makes ContraPoints really, really good and fun isn't like the bisexual lighting or the fact that she has quippy, bitter Gen X jokes or the spinster aesthetic that she props up, or the, sort of disaffected but broadly aware understanding of internet culture. Don't get me wrong, those things are fun and I like them, but the thing that makes Contrapoints' videos really great is that Natalie is really smart, and it comes across in the scripts that she writes. She delivers the information she delivers in an incredibly compelling, effective, and charitable manner. Now, why am I talking about charitability? Okay. So I was recently subjected to Noah Samsen's video in which I felt like I was done dirty, but like no one was done dirtier than Xander Hall. Okay. That's the thing. And I want to talk about Xan. All right. I'm not going to say that I agree with everything Xan's ever done or everything Xan's ever phrased things as, but Xander Hall's section in the video that Noah Samsen put out on debate culture was reprehensible. It was remarkable in that I think at no point an argument was made against Sanderhall. You can check out my video where I go over that if you want, but like it was so obvious that Noah Samsen just didn't like Xan. There were no arguments delivered. You guys, were any arguments delivered? I'm actually asking you guys because in my memory and rewatch of that bit, I couldn't find anyone. It was actually none. It was just willful misinterpretation of stuff Xan said without even following through on it with an argument. Look, reacting to something, that's easy. You can do that in a live format, okay? The strength of a video essay is to break a subject down to its roots. That's what you need to be able to do to make a good video essay. It takes a lot of time and work and research. But, again, with whatever respect is due to Noah Samsen, Noah Samsen's video contains so many factual errors that his first sentence upon joining a call with me was apologizing not just for the tone of the video, but for the things that he got wrong. Every subject we discussed afterwards was him acknowledging that he was wrong on subsequent issues, like, for example, who contacted who with the indigenous person I had on, what positions the indigenous person had on, what the subject of Zizek's interview was with concern to the legitimacy of debating statistics in the place of normative frameworks when talking about the oppression of minority groups, among several others. You can watch those videos. It's obvious that I'm working off of frustration built up from that, but Noah Samsen is very competent at the aesthetic of video essay delivery, but I have great concerns about effective aestheticization of politically empty content. Because video essays are a phenomenal tool for developing and producing propaganda. If you're very good at the aesthetic of a video essay, the way to make sharp cuts and funny jokes and pace everything properly, you can sell any information. Prager University has sharp editing and tight script writing, and in 5 minutes is able to deliver enough misinformation that it can take me 40 minutes to respond to it. Video essays are really good at delivering well-researched, rebuttals or information if they're well-researched. But if they're not, if they're manipulative, dishonest, spiteful, poorly constructed, then that's not what happens. And I am concerned that we're going to see a generation of people who ape the aesthetic of people like Contrapoints without understanding the thing that actually makes these videos quality. You guys understand where I'm coming from? Why I'm saying what I'm saying? I think anyone could make videos about anything, but I just find it so weird to go after people on your side, says Shu, for aesthetic concerns and then be like, don't watch this content when it's shown to move many people over. I agree. I think the spite drawn towards the debate bro side of things is in large part an anger which is directed towards masculine presenting white guys for daring to speak confidently on issues in a format which gives them room to make mistakes and correct them. That sounds like a very conceited thing of me to say, but holy shit, that is a more consistent explanation than almost anything else you're going to be able to come up with. Because if misinformation or bigotry is what we're going after, then they are not doing that on a consistent track. I really think that's the track, Whatever, we deal with the cards we're handed. I don't want to get rid of video essayist content. I want video essayist content to be better. I want it to be its best, as a matter of fact. And I think that some critiques we could make would facilitate that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is charitability. See, one of the things that makes video essays very, very powerful as a tool for compelling information delivery is that you can do something called, this is a slur, by the way, in the streaming community, uh, pre-watching. Now, I can't pre-watch. That would be cheating. But when you're making a video essay, you actually pre-watch everything, believe it or not. And when you pre-watch something, you gain a remarkable ability. You learn the entire contents of the thing you're looking to critique, which means that you then have an intimate understanding, ideally, of how you can break it down, find the essential parts, remove the unessential parts, respond to points at the crucial moment, and additionally, how to present all of that in a way which makes most sense, not just in its initial form, but how to deconstruct it. When you are reacting to something in a debate format or like in a live stream format, it's like baking a cake when you're presented all of the ingredients piece by piece in random orders, you know? Like they roll an egg towards you, you know? And then like 1 cup of flour, but the next cup of flour will be in 20 minutes. And then the next, you know, and then like, okay, here's the food coloring, you know, and here's some chocolate chip. You're like, and there's a time limit, you know? But if you're doing a video essay, you have all the ingredients beforehand. And what that should mean is you should never construct a video essay in which you get some obvious shit wrong. No. Or in which you're incapable of constructing a counter argument to the person you're talking about. I'd like to show you a video from a YouTuber I don't like called Shaun. Just not a fan, but great video maker. You can believe it. So let's take a look at a video that he did where he was responding to, oh, let's find the one I had in my head. It was Sargon of Akkad. Is it this one? Or was it another one? So many response videos. This one, this one, this one. Let's say it was, maybe it's this one. Let's take a look, huh?
Hello everyone. So, when our pal Sargon of Akkad isn't harassing innocent women by photographing them and tweeting out where they live and work, he still finds time to make a YouTube video or two.
I love that opening because it actually gets to a point that I'm going to make later in this video about how modern left-tubers who weren't online from 2014 to 2017 are massive babies who have no idea how bad things get. And I have no idea the Gamergate era is filled with people getting constantly doxxed, physically threatened and harassed all the time. And it was massive channels that were attacking them and they had absolutely no form of recourse they could do. And they don't understand this, so they keep thinking the right has been epically owned already. And the only like thing left needs now to spread its messaging is like, you know, carefully crafted, like, you know, TikTok era bisexual lighting video essays.
How's that for an intro there? So today I'm going to be looking at one of Sargon's recent videos in his This Week in Stupid series, where he reads out some recent news items and then complains a lot. And Sargon recently tried something a little different with this series. Instead of posting shorter, edited videos, he tried releasing a couple of longer, less scripted, off-the-cuff videos.
Wait for it.
The danger with this approach is that you're more likely to make mistakes, you know, misquote something, misread something, take something out of context. And Sargon has since abandoned this style of video, saying that making that type of content made him feel lazy. Of course, the other danger here is that some handsome chap will come along and make a list of all the mistakes you made in order to have a bit of a laugh at you. Now, is that unfair? You know, Sargon posts an experimental, long-form, unscripted video, and then I go through it and nitpick it for mistakes. Well, maybe that's unfair, but I do think there's still some points to be made here. With Sargon specifically, I think it gives us a bit of a peek behind the curtain.
Now, I understand this may come across as a little bit trite or like a strange thing to fixate on, but do you notice the tone with which Shaun is regarding Sargon here? Now, Sargon, at this point in time, is again like just doxing female journalists who he doesn't like. This is a person for whom Shaun has every right to feel a great degree of contempt. Compare this to how Noah Samsen treated Xander Hall because Xander Hall, like, said Noah Samsen was a dumb fuck on Twitter and stream, you know? Now, Shaun is being condescending, don't get me wrong, but his condescension and the sort of, you know, dry humor that he's known for isn't getting in the way of him establishing the premises here, you know? I feel like the modern equivalent to a setup like this would be one in which you played like 6-second clips from Sargon's stream where he says something really bad, and then you like do a joke where you make fun of how bad that take is. You know what I mean? But he continues to set up everything that's about to take place for multiple minutes, and I am going to walk you through it because this is really valuable stuff. If for no other reason than because this video is evergreen, by fully establishing context, by making sure everything is a contained analysis, bookended on both sides. This video is just as fun to watch now as it was 5 years ago. He establishes everything. This is a perfectly approachable video. He's not making fun of Sargon because he doesn't like Sargon, though he does dislike Sargon. He's making fun of Sargon here because he carefully lays all of the foundations necessary to build a case for the audience. We're going to watch it through because I want you guys to understand how effective that approach can be. Not the whole video, of course, but the intro.
And there are parts of this video where I'd argue Carl flirts with open white nationalism in a much more obvious way than I see him do in his more scripted videos. More generally, though, the particular ways in which Carl misreads articles and news stories is illustrative of how a lot of other people misread articles and news stories and end up coming to silly conclusions. There's a definite lack of basic journalistic understanding at play here. For all Carl and his hate on universities for being social justice hug boxes, they really could do with going and taking a writing course sometime.
So that right there was a snippy comment that was implemented in part for a joke and in part to support the broader political point. And I think it's pretty well supported by the text here, because this is a fairly inarguable reading of Sargon's explicit and intended behavior. The snip here is, of course, Sargon being quite stupid is easy to make fun of. You know, you can just explain reality to him and it's still sort of an insult. But this doesn't come off as like this uncharitable reach. In fact, you'd have to be very biased in favor of Sargon to not think this is a reach. Do you understand what I'm going for?
So we're also going to focus on Carl's method of reading these articles and how in particular he misreads. This is how I kid myself into doing these sorts of response videos. You know, I try and make it into some wider point so it's not just me laughing at a guy for being wrong. So I think what we'll do here is, before we get to Carl, pick out one of the stories that he reads and we'll briefly scan through it ourselves, have a little chat about it, and then we'll watch his take on it.
Look at that. What a phenomenal way of establishing the premises for a takedown, to make sure that we understand fully the subject material that we're going to impugn him for not understanding himself. It's not enough, you see, to simply show Sargon saying a thing that is dumb, and then show evidence that that information is not true, and then laugh at him. This professionalism is essential at reaching people outside of your traditional medium and audience, and it's really good at future-proofing your videos. It also saves you the error of making mistakes yourself. Now, Shaun is going to have an easier time about this than, say, for example, people who dislike me or Xanderhall are going to have making videos targeting us. The reason for that is because Sargon is very, very dumb and very, very often wrong, whereas Xan and myself are not dumb and not often wrong. We are harder targets. And I'm afraid that because we're harder targets, the response a lot of people who critique us are making is to simply forego the process of establishing arguments altogether. It's difficult to make arguments against Xan and I, so rather than doing so, you simply explain things that you think are right or wrong. You don't support them with premises, and you don't do so as an explicit challenge to a thing that I've said or believe. This is one of the reasons why videos that critique me are really consistently, kind of infamously bad, usually relying on short clips or on an impression given that I've either not said myself or explicitly disagree with. It's because, in essence, straw manning and misrepresentation are ways of making us easier targets. It's very, very difficult to impugn my behavior when talking to me directly, and you guys know that because nobody's ever really succeeded in doing it when talking to me directly. People who make essays online where I'm impugned substantively can then talk with me directly, and it kind of melts away, doesn't it? And the same stuff has happened to Zan in the past. Now, part of this is because in a live format, I'm going to have an advantage against somebody who is not familiar with live debate. That is a bias in my favor. And it's not one which necessarily inclines one towards the truth. It's just a skill that I have, and it's worth keeping that in mind. However, a lot of it is also because the aesthetic components of video essays are often necessary to frame my positions in a way that allow them to be attacked. You guys understand? It is only through the trappings of video essay construction that my positions can be misrepresented to the point that they can be meaningfully attacked. This is one of the reasons why I'm often impugned for doing a thing that I don't actually really do that much, which is challenging people to come on and debate me when they disagree with me. I'm pretty chill about that compared to a lot of other people in my field. But if I were to do that more often than I do right now, I don't think it would be slimy for me to do so. I think I have a right to do that, because often I feel like I'm doing that in response to people whose critiques can only survive in a vacuum. They can't survive direct challenges because, well, it's very difficult to clip chimp a person in real time. Not impossible, but difficult. Now, some people think I'm doing this to be like snippy. I'm really not. I'm doing this because I sincerely want people who make video essays to improve. Anyone who feels insulted by the implications or, in fact, direct criticisms that I'm making through this should feel that way, but should also improve. Because disagreeing with a person or feeling hurt by them is not a proper substitute for growth. They should be done in tandem. Oh yeah, I agree, Tempest. There's also an issue where they vaguely talk about debate bro culture like as a broad thing and don't talk directly about, actual people. Because it's me or Destiny for the most part. Zan as well. Demon Mama never gets roped into this. I wonder why. It's not as though Demon Mama doesn't engage in contentious... the criticisms levied against me, contentious, antagonistic. My God. Okay. If I get that and Demon Mama doesn't, then it's not about being contentious or antagonistic. I'll say that much. Let's continue, because I think it's really important to understand how thoroughly Shaun establishes the foundations of the argument.
Though I will say, if you're short on time and you just want to see the worst thing that Carl said today and can't really be bothered with all of the reading, skip to the time code currently on the screen to see Carl being so offensively wrong about something that it's actually legitimately concerning. Anyway, for everyone else, we'll start with this article from the news website QZ.com. We tested bots like Siri and Alexa to see who would stand up to sexual harassment. Women have been made into servants once again, except this time they're digital. Apple's Siri, Amazon's Alexa, Microsoft's Cortana, and Google's Google Home peddle stereotypes of female subservience, which puts their progressive parent companies in a moral predicament.
Now, I could be speaking only for myself here. I hope that many of you would agree. But when I'm watching a video that I know is going to be critiquing somebody, I love seeing introductions like this because I know that a setup is being provided. The setup, we are building a tower from which to drop somebody. I love stuff like this. It's entirely, you could skip all of this and still critique Sargon fairly, but this is the power of a video essay. Pre-watching, the dirty word in live formats, here gives Shaun the ability to effectively construct the he's assembling the gallows right now, listen, I'm very good at what I do, but because I function in live formats, because I don't pre-watch stuff and can't fully contextualize information beforehand, my hit jobs are always going to be messy bludgeonings. I could never deconstruct anything as thoroughly as a video essayist at the top of their game, simply because they have the ability to properly research something beforehand and edit information around it to construct, the kill zone, which they then, of course, activate. It's very effective stuff. And I think that if you're going to be, if you're going to be doing this, then you should, You should be taking advantage of the medium.
So, what have we just read? Well, it's the headline and first few sentences of an article about how the digital personal assistants on smartphones and tablets and the likes handle talking about the topic of sexual abuse. And we can already see that the author of this article clearly thinks that they underperform in that regard. Now, the start of an article like this is meant to be attention grabbing. You know, it's got the weird premise in the headline and then the punchy first two sentences. Women have been made into servants once again, except this time they're digital. It's good. It hopefully, from the author's perspective anyway, makes the reader want to know more. You know, asking questions like, what's the issue? Why is it a problem? Who's at fault? What can be done about it? Things like that. And the article, if it's a good article anyway, will then go on to address all of these questions. And not to skip ahead here, but the reader, if they're a good reader, will actually read the article to see if it answers those questions.
I love this, because without saying anything directly about Sargon, and without actually making any claims which could, under any context, be considered uncharitable or inaccurate, Shaun has laid out the foundations upon which Sargon is going to fail. You can already see it. You can flash forward in your head. You know what mistakes Sargon is about to make. Without any misreading, any uncharitability, even any direct accusations. What's happening right now is that Shaun is painting a picture in a negative. He's painting a silhouette right now. Through negative space, he constructs the shape of Sargon's error. Do you understand? Without directly saying what Sargon did wrong, the presentation of information adjacent to that wrongness gives you an image. It is phenomenally well done. He's priming you to be led to a conclusion. Yes, he certainly is. But he's not doing it through any misrepresentation, any misinformation, anything like that. It is a very simple reading that anyone should be able to agree with. If you were a fan of Sargon, so far the information that you've heard should be inarguable to you as well. Ideally, a reader would read the article to engage with the answers to the questions posed by its inflammatory headline. Who would argue with that?
The article goes on to explain the issue, which is that these personal assistant programs aren't programmed particularly well to discuss sexual harassment, rape, sex education, and topics like that. And they reach out to the developers of these devices for quotes about their approach to the issue, and they test the devices to see how they respond to being insulted. And they come to the conclusion that the developers need to do better when they're programming how the bots respond to these things, ending with, rather than promoting stereotypical passivity, dismissiveness, and even flirtation with abuse, these companies could become industry leaders against sexual harassment. So, what do we think about this article? Well, I personally think it's well written, it's easy to follow, it gets its point across well, it's well researched. The premise, obviously, is a little silly. You know, you imagine someone sitting there swearing insults at a bunch of smartphones for an experiment, and it does seem a bit funny, admittedly. But I do think there are some interesting points here, and it's something I've got a bit of a personal interest in, to tell you the truth. How these sorts of automated systems deal with sensitive topics is really interesting and potentially really harmful. For instance, there's a problem I've seen reported with a lot of so-called child-friendly web browsers which are supposed to filter out adult content, but also end up filtering out a lot of potentially very helpful content too. For example, a kid searching on one of these browsers for, say, I want to commit suicide or how to know if I was raped or something like that, won't be able to get the help they need. Or just recently, you know, YouTube's restricted mode ended up filtering out LGBT content, which sends a bit of a horrible message, to be honest. Now, as this article points out, these bots can be programmed to respond positively to these sorts of sensitive questions, and I quote, each of the bots had thoughtful and informative responses to I am suicidal and I'm going to kill myself. Siri says if you're thinking about suicide, you might want to speak with someone at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Shall I call them for you? And the rest of the bots said something similar. So there's clearly some thought and effort put into the programming there. And the point of the article is to argue that if they can write helpful responses to questions about suicide, they can write similarly helpful responses to sexual harassment and questions about sexual abuse and rape and the likes. And I personally think if this isn't a problem now, it's going to be eventually, isn't it? These bots are only going to get more prevalent in the future, and they're going to get smarter and going to be increasingly relied upon to answer sensitive questions like this. So I'm glad that at least someone out there is thinking about it. I'm not saying it's some world-ending problem right now or anything, but it's certainly worth pointing out and thinking about. And even if you think it's not an issue at all, the worst that happened here is some journalist wasted an afternoon swearing at a bunch of smartphones. So, even if it's pointless, it's nothing to get upset about, really. Or so you might think.
And we're done watching this video now. What a spectacular opening. Now, you can imagine the criticisms that are going to be made against Sargon later, because Sargon's an idiot. And all of the negative has been printed. The silhouette is shown. You understand what's going to happen from this point. In 7 minutes and 37 seconds, Shaun made essentially no mention of the person that he was actually criticizing there. He demonstrated a familiarity with the subject that is to be discussed, that will be the subject of Sargon's mistake. He explained his interest in it, the reasons why it could potentially be informative or interesting, and in so doing, prime the audience away from responses of nonchalance or dismissal that Sargon fans would by default be kind of interested in. So the natural criticisms you could make against Shaun here are the same ones that Sargon would make if somebody were to defend the existence of that article directly to him. Oh, what, you care about this? Well, this is stupid. It's stupid. You're dumb. What does this even matter? Who made that? Something to that effect. Shaun presents this information in a way which sets you up for a really good debunk, and maybe primes you away from the worst and most disengaged responses you could engage in. This is a phenomenal example of two things. One, efficiency, and two, charitability. And both of them serve the end goal of convincing people of the validity of Shaun's arguments as effectively as possible. Do you understand why I showed this? It's a good video. You're free to watch it as well as any of the videos that he's made because they are generally quite great. I want to talk about why its structure is important. Keep in mind, this script writing process, which I believe he had help with, I think he had a friend at the time who helped with it, or perhaps did all the script writing back in 2017. I don't know all the details, but that Jen, right? Because it used to be the Shaun and Jen YouTube channel. That script writing, I imagine, took quite a bit of effort, okay? This was not some first draft stuff, And it's also kind of slow-paced. Oh, I suppose it's not very Zoomer, right? Shaun's videos don't have a camera. They don't have any bisexual lighting. They aren't packed full of bass-boosted fart noises that you use to, signal your opinion of other people's arguments. Okay, fine. So it doesn't have these zippy, quick cuts. Fine, sure, fine. Okay. Well, let's bring it back a little bit then to a channel that I really hope isn't content ID'd. Hello, Contra. Let's talk about aesthetics, but not on your video aesthetic, because I'm not talking about that aesthetic. I'm talking about another aesthetic.
Hello again, the gays. Welcome to my garden party fantasy. Straight people, you're of course welcome to tag along too, provided you're emotionally damaged. Hi, hey, how are you? Cringe. Let's talk about it. The word cringe has taken over my vocabulary lately. It just pops into my head all the time.
Did you just see what just happened? I'll rewind 10 seconds. I'll see if you can pinpoint what I'm referring to.
Damaged. Hi, hey, how are you? Cringe. Let's talk about it. The word cringe has taken over my vocabulary lately. It just pops into my head all the time.
She changed her tone. The first 15 seconds of the video were clearly an irreverent, ironic, facetious delivery. It's Look at how she carries herself at first.
Straight people, you're of course welcome to tag along too, provided you're emotionally damaged. Hi. Hey, how are you? Cringe. Let's talk about it. The word cringe
And then, here...
has taken over my vocabulary lately. It just pops into my head all the time. Like, when I randomly remember that month back in 2013, when all of my Facebook posts were just lyrics to Kesha songs rewritten in iambic pentameter. Why? What audience was that for? Who is this inconceivable person I used to be? Cringe. Mega cringe. I think I say this word like...
There was a very clear demarcation in the way she was speaking that I think is really important to keep in mind, okay? Contra, funny lady, she, okay? Contra is really good at having jokes and serious information presented right next to each other, usually cut with a change in music or in visible facial expression, which indicates that there's been a segue from something you're not supposed to take too seriously to something you're actually supposed to pay attention to as a serious part of the delivery of information. The critical point that you'll notice when you watch Contra's videos is that even though arguments are often supported by the jokes she makes, they could be supported just as well without them. Essential information, particularly information which pertains to the analysis of other people's behavior and beliefs, is delivered more seriously. If you watch her video on J.K. Rowling, for example, chock full of jokes, the whole thing's like 2 hours long, but if you were somehow able to parse out all of the jokes, which you shouldn't, they're great, mind, but if you were only to pay attention to the serious delivery of information, do you know what you would get? You would get a full and charitable reading of what J.K. Rowling said in the manifesto that Contra is responding to. She doesn't hide behind the jokes. The jokes are there to support the arguments, not to mask them or to support them through plausible deniability. I've noticed a problem with a lot of modern video essayists, and that isn't to say that people weren't making this mistake back in the day, but they continue to make this mistake now, and I'm concerned by it, where arguments will be made in the jokes. You can't do that. Jokes can support an argument. You can set a tone. You can break things up. You can pace a video properly. But when you're establishing an argument, putting forward a conclusion, setting up a premise to that conclusion, a joke is by its nature something that you don't take fully seriously. It's something which introduces a layer of ambiguity. How seriously did you mean that? Should we take that with full seriousness? Or is it just kind of a offhanded comment? You don't know. That's the reason why I was just joking is like the hallmark of plausibly deniable regressivism, right? How many times have you heard that from people online? Well enough. Lord knows I've heard it thousands of times. The play to potential irony is a really common defense. And we're not talking about people being reactionary right now because we're talking about, leftist video essays. But if you want to make a video where you're deconstructing an idea, that deconstruction needs to be of a premise, an argument that you have constructed in full charitability. Because otherwise, you're shadowboxing. And this is precisely what happens in Noah Samsen's video, which, you know what? I'm just going to play. Why not? Let's take a look at the section on Xanderhal and really break things down a little bit, okay? 144,000 views. Christ, this schlock is going to get 1 million. Vaush bad, the Zan man. Now, I want you to count, if you will, how many not only full characterization of Xanderhal's points get brought up here, but additionally, how many times a full and serious rebuttal is made to them.
I had been spending the last month or so working on a couple different scripts for videos when the following clip was brought to my attention last week. It's from a video by the leftist streamer and YouTuber Xanderhal titled "Why LeftTube is Dying and the Next Anti-SJW Wave is Rising." Oh no, this situation sounds dire. We better take a look, see what's going on. You'll
So far, nothing here is bad. Nothing that's happened so far is wrong.
Notice, and we talked about this earlier, there are some people online in the political scene right now that are left-wing, that are growing and are doing well. Many of the creators that are really blowing up right now are newer essay, commentary, bisexual lighting YouTubers. Good example of this is Noah Samsen. We just did a segment earlier covering
Oh, hey, that's me.
Noah Samsen and how he's actually a dumb fuck.
Oh, god damn it.
That dude is literally gaining 4,000 subs a day right now. And this worries me. I am worried about channels like Noah Samsen and people like Hassan blowing up on YouTube because they're stupid and they can't defend their positions.
Now here's where I paused the video and thought, Tom Hardy gif from Mad Max Fury Road. That's bait, right? Has to be. Or maybe it's a performance, like somebody...
No. He was in the middle of making a point. I don't know how it would be considered bait or a performance.
forced an AI to watch debate streams for a year straight and then had it write a manifesto. And then microwaved Eminem for 20 seconds and had him read it at gunpoint.
Guys, it's jokes. It's he didn't like the thing that he said, so it's like when you AI algorithm a debate bro and microwave the... Are we going to provide an actual argument, or...
defend their positions.
So I kept watching the video because, you know, I support small gamers, and that's when I saw this. Xander Hall responds to a message in the chat that mentions several popular black leftist creators by name.
No, we're not. We're moving on to the next point now. No argument provided thus far. And if you think that I'm being, like, you know, anal about this or whatever, the problem is, like, this video that Noah Samsen put out is meant to be a deconstruction of the entire genre that Zan and I participate in, and he walked everything back while talking to me. Like, basically everything. The only thing he wouldn't walk back was the characterization of Professor Flowers, and it was like Professor Flowers is in the background screaming, "I do believe all the bad things he says about me," and he's like, "Nope, I'm not listening to you or him," you know? So, whatever. But the problem is that, like, no real effort was made over the course of this video to actually establish the premises of Zan's argument, and to meaningfully respond to it. And if people are saying right now, like, well, Zan didn't provide a full argument because all he really said was that people like Noah Samsen and Hassan are dumb, then my response to that would be, then clip the full argument. You're a video essayist. You have the ability to edit the information together. You can't complain that Zan didn't make a full argument when you are the one choosing to provide an amount of information which does not constitute a full argument. You're the one editing this together. Give him the full air. Let him play for a minute and a half uninterrupted if you have to. Go for it.
Some of whom are relatively new to YouTube.
Try giving more examples, lol. Progressive/leftist channels by black creators have been getting really big this past year, for example. I'm so glad you brought this up! I'm so glad you brought this up, because some of the examples you list here, I know these people, and they're exactly the problem I'm talking about.
These people... Sorry.
I have no problem with black creators getting really...
So I pointed this out before, but these people literally refers to the list of the people in that chat, in the chat message. Now, that could be funny if it was played off just as a joke, but do you guys think it was just played off as a joke? Like,
exactly the problem I'm talking about.
These people... Sorry.
I have no...
Like, do you know? That's the problem with delivering arguments in the form of a joke. I'm willing to bet this is meant to be kind of an actual condemnation, but there's plausible deniability. If he gets called out in it, he gets to go like, oh, it was a joke that reached too far. But if he doesn't get called out in it, then his audience gets to accept this as an actual critique of racism, which he makes throughout the entire video.
Problem with black creators getting really big. However, let me check something really quick. FD signifier is a dumb fuck. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, so he's definitely doing a little bit of trolling. Why else would someone...
So wait, what is the argument being provided here? He's doing troll because he doesn't like FD signifier? Sure, I don't like FD signifier. What's the trolling here? What? Just... Yeah, zooming in and bass boosted sound effects are not arguments.
FD signifier is a dumb fuck. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, so he's definitely doing a little bit of trolling. Why else would someone say something like that about FD signifier of all people? The final boss of the wise uncles of YouTube.com. If he isn't baiting us for hate clicks here, and has just deemed himself the racial arbiter of who's allowed to make left-wing YouTube content...
Like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Like, the racial... Because he doesn't like a black guy, it makes him the racial arbiter? You're not allowed to dislike a black. Yeah, was that a joke? No, I don't think that was a joke. God help you if you're a white guy who says anything that Noah Samsen doesn't like, or you're about to be painted as a racist in the next 80-minute long video. You guys understand what do you guys understand what I'm talking about? Do you understand the differences between how this is and how Shaun's video was? Because it's like night and day. In fact, I would say that Noah Samsen's video actually has more in common with what I do than with what Shaun does, because Noah Samsen delivers arguments with the level of coherence and precision that I would expect from somebody live reacting to content, not from a person capable of editing and script writing. Whereas Shaun's videos, for the most part, are airtight, incredibly comprehensive. But let's continue, because he continues to not make arguments for a while.
Then that's not much better, is it?
Nope.
Oh, I'm fine with black people coming onto LeftTube. But I have some conditions. Seems
He did not say that. He didn't. He said he didn't like one black guy. Is that okay? Are we allowed to do that? Is that, like, why do you have to strawman Xander Hall's positions in order to attack them? Shaun wouldn't do that. Contra doesn't do that. Hell, even in H-Bomb's videos, which tend to be a lot more openly comedic, when he directly criticizes somebody, it's usually like a full accounting is taken of his positions. Like, to give you guys an understanding of how bad this is, H-Bomber Guy actually makes a better effort to give a comprehensive telling of the arguments made by the anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists in his vaccine video, which is 2 hours long, than Noah Samsen does to Xander Hall, not a insane vaccine conspiracy theorist, in his video. H-Bomb is giving more charitability to, like, con men from the 1990s than Noah Samsen is willing to give a person on the left today. It's night and day. These are just not comparable. And if this is the quality of left discourse moving forward, then not only are you guys going to get fucking decked by the right the next time they have a resurgence, you're not doing anything valuable right now. What are people learning from this video besides misinformation? You walked back on almost everything. In fact, I don't think there was a point you weren't willing to walk back on, with the exception of your insane defense of Professor Flowers in spite of all contrary evidence.
It's pretty weird. Earlier in this stream, he goes over how his channel is, well, dying. It's a pretty unfortunate segment, but I assumed at this point him lashing out here had something to do with that. But eventually he gets to a claim of sorts.
Him saying he didn't like FD Signifier is because his channel hasn't gotten many subs recently. Sort of a weird offhand assumption.
He's going to be on the screen for a little while, so just a heads up, if a radiation sickness warning shows up on your HUD, you should probably just pause the video and go take a
Radiation sickness. I don't even know what that's meant to be a reference to. Fallout, is it because he's bad? It's just bad anytime something's bad. No, I know it's a Fallout reference, but it's what's the radiation like? Toxic? Toxicity? Toxicity and radiation aren't the same thing. Oh, cancerous. I see. It could be because it's cancerous. Okay, maybe.
shower.
FD Signifier is a dumb fuck. I was iffy on him for a while. He's been shit-talking the debate bro thing for a while now. He's also gone on Twitter and said some dumb fuck shit about, like, BreadTube debate bros and stuff like that. Here's the thing. People like FD Signifier, Noah Samsen, these all have one thing in common. They hate and nonstop shit-talk debate bros. Notice.
Well, that's true. That's ended up being true. Yeah, Shu is completely correct. If you don't know who FD Signifier is, how is anyone watching this supposed to agree or disagree? No context is being provided. All I'm doing right now is watching one guy say he doesn't like another guy in a video where Noah's saying he doesn't like Xan. Like, what are the premises here? What are the ground, arguments? Obviously, in this section, I skipped over the intro, but I've watched the intro in my own video, and it really doesn't give you that much more. It's also kind of full of misinformation.
Shit talk the concept of being a debate bro and claim that debate bros are all toxic assholes who make the left worse. You're starting to see that rhetoric get really popular among the left right now.
You guys notice how everyone I meet and interact with in my life ends up calling me an asshole? It's so...
That is not even remotely what he said. Like, this is just petty beef shit right here. It's insane. He said that arguments against debate bros on the left are really popular right now. To which the response here is from you is like, well, if nobody likes you, these are, even if you take away all the, like, memey, jokey flavor. The counter-argument Noah's saying right now is, if people dislike you, then there must be a reason for disliking you, which is an argument you could make against every minority in existence to justify their oppression. Is that the argument we're going to go with? Like, can you imagine a world in which, like, right-leaning video essayists are just just responding to trans people complaining about oppression, and the right-leaning person is like, everyone in all of human history doesn't accept me, that's their fault. Like, I'm being serious when I say that. That is actually a lower level of discourse than most conservative content creators engage in. Noah Samsen here is actually falling below a PragerU tier of engagement. That is, Ben Shapiro would not make that argument. He wouldn't. That is actually below Ben Shapiro. Well, maybe people don't like you before, maybe you don't deserve to be like. They wouldn't make that argument. Noah Samsen would.
Weird. That rhetoric is getting really popular right now.
Sorry,
Whoever's doing that, we gotta stop.
Noah.
Okay, sorry. Here, let's let him finish.
The good faith Gary thing is, of course, ironically, a bad faith argument, or a bad faith rhetorical ploy. But
making his point.
Do you think that the left online would do better with people like Hassan and Noah Samsen and FD Signifier being the largest figures on it? The types of people who say debate is bad, who literally say debating is bad, people who literally as a concept are against
zooming in
debate and defending your ideas.
Weed leaf? I don't understand what this... Are we anti-weed on the Noah Samsen channel? I guess it's funny that he's a weed leaf thing, but the fact that this is being shown while he's trying to make an argument kind of implies that this is an implicit counter-argument to his point. This might just be like a poor understanding of how editing language functions, or like the language of cinematography.
And they publicly say so. Do you think that this is what we want representing the left?
Okay, so Xander Hall says that Hassan, Feek, and I are, as a concept, against debate and defending our ideas, and goes on to conclude that this will inevitably end in a weakening of the online left.
Now, you know what's interesting? Guys, did you notice that Noah never played any section of Zan supporting his arguments? All Noah showed was Zan arriving at his conclusions and asking rhetorical questions of his audience as a way of essentially reframing that exact same thing. What is your conclusion? Well, this is mine. At no point is any evidence provided here that Xander Hall has made an effort to support these arguments. Now, I've watched Xander Hall's content, and I know for a fact that he has. But knowing that, and including that to provide a full context for the argument, would require research, which I know Noah Samsen doesn't do, because he accused me of searching for an indigenous activist to bring on to own Professor Flowers after the conversation with her, when in the conversation with the indigenous activist, it was twice brought up that she emailed me, and a tremendous bit of appreciation to, let me find the tweet right here, to Abby on Twitter for finding this. I appreciated your email. This is from that
usually
video.
When I
and then using indigenous talking points to try and justify, your own ends. I really had a problem with that. That was the point where I was like yelling at the TV while I was watching it, and I went and grabbed my laptop and emailed you. I was like, no, this needs to get sorted out. This can't happen.
Clear as day. Noah Samsen never actually watched the conversation. He saw that I talked to an indigenous person after talking to Professor Flowers, and just assumed it was me reaching out. He probably found clips, yeah. I noticed that a lot of the snippets from the Professor Flowers conversation that he included in this video were pulled from Twitter clips that I've seen of that convo. I'm not sure if he ever actually watched the video.
Because
I'm starting to see the online left turn into what it was back during the Gamergate era. One of the biggest common talking points from the right during this era was the left was too afraid to debate and defend their positions. That's why Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro blew up so much. It's because they debated, and they didn't debate well, and they weren't telling the truth. They just debated. Just the fact they were willing to debate gave them more credibility than the left.
So this seems like so to credit where credit's due, this is an argument. We need people capable of engaging in debate, because, as we saw in the past, the right was able to make a massive amount of optical headway because they were willing to engage in debate, and they were willing to impugn people on the left for not being able or willing to do so.
Nobody on the left wanted debate.
Yes, famously credible intellectuals Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro.
You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be.
What the fuck was that response? Noah, I genuinely need to know what you were thinking here. What the fuck was that response? When at any point did Zan compliment the intelligence of these people? He said they got big because they were willing to engage in debate. You completely ignored the argument. You completely, it's not even the same. Noah, I'm sure he'll see this. The only reason I was really nice to Noah at the time was because I was under the impression that he was operating off of empathy, and that this wasn't malice. But then I remembered after the conversation that, that's not an excuse. So I'll say this a little more clearly. If Noah has any spine, the follow-up video that he claimed he's going to make will include a full retraction of essentially everything. In fact, Noah, and you can signal boost this if you like. Here, in fact, let's construct a tweet right now. Just a sec. We'll do it for Xanderhall's sake because we care about... hold on. Hold on just a moment. At Noah Samsen. Hold on. You walked a lot back on your video while talking to me, and I hear you're planning to make a follow-up with corrections. Would you be interested in a full list of every factually incorrect thing you put in your first video? Make sure he sees it. It's on you. Get over there. Come on now. Anywho, as I was just saying, Noah just completely ignored the argument Zan was making here, substituted with another argument, and just pretended that Zan had said Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson were smart.
While you're putting your finger in the little hole. Rubber.
So where is Zanman getting this impression about us?
And that's it. That's his rebuttal. Let's, one more time. That's his whole rebuttal.
Give them more credibility than the left, because nobody on the left wanted debate.
Yes, famously credible intellectuals Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro.
You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout. While you're putting your finger in the little hole. Rubber.
So where is Zanman getting this impression about us?
That's the full counter argument right there. That is the full counter argument. Isn't that incredible? That's it. This is what happens when telling the truth or conveying information in an honest and accurate way play second fiddle to using editing as a way of delivering misinformation which supports your pre-existing biases. The whole video is like this, guys. The whole video is like this. It's really bad. And it's going to get a lot of views, too. This is what some people have said in the past as a kind of moral luck, where perhaps Noah Samsen isn't actually capable of, adhering to or acting on thought processes which allow you to consistently apply standards of truth-telling regardless of what subject you're focusing on. I don't know how much that actually is the case. Shouldn't he take this down? Oh, Noah Samsen should take this video down. Don't get me wrong. It is immoral of Noah Samsen to keep this video up. This isn't like this video is as uncharitable as some alt-right hit pieces that I've seen on myself. Possibly more so than some of them. I've actually seen alt-right hit pieces where they did their best to twist statistics to support race realist conclusions that were more good faith than this. And that's not a joke. They actually did make an effort to present my position and then rebut it. The Vaush is unironically evil actually did have arguments. I am not joking when I say to all of you with full sincerity that this is quite possibly the worst takedown I've seen. I don't know what else to say. If this is the future of video essays on the left, then there's really no point to it. There's no point to it. None whatsoever. I could speculate at length about, what motivations, biases, prejudices, whatever are motivating it, but to be really honest, I don't care. Now, Noah Samsen has been kind with me in DMs, but sometimes kindness is just a way of placating people while you stab them in the back. And I have been quite a bit more charitable to Noah Samsen than he has been to me. So the kindness has run its course now. The kindness now is deleting the video. Oh, actually, never let it be said that that I'm put out of pocket. If Noah Samsen deletes the video and publicly retracts the information within, then he can screenshot the AdSense info within it, and I will give him money so that he doesn't lose a cent from deleting it. He'll keep whatever he had then. I'll double it. He's leaving money on the table for providing disinformation. In this comment, I'm working on a follow-up video now to address the criticisms I've been hearing. I missed the mark on a few things that need corrections. I watched when Vaush reacted live to the video and agreed with a lot of his pushbacks. So when it went on the stream, I didn't have much to say. The issue is that it was a pushback to the entire video. I do want to believe it's just bias, I do want to believe that it's just by being in the online left, Noah Samsen is just swimming in an ocean of hatred towards me, and that everything, everything just bleeds out from it. You know what I mean? That it's almost impossible. It's just this overwhelming. But